Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Monchkinz Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Monchkinz logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. And welcome to my video guide on Ultimecia's character event, Governess of Time. And of course, this video will be concentrating on the Chaos fight. Now just a gentle reminder before we do start this video is, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. There is a new goal by the end of the year, which is to reach 1,200 subscribers. And of course, if you do find this video informative or helpful, or even you just enjoy the contents that I make on this channel, leave a like on this video. It's gonna help out with the YouTube algorithm. So with that in mind, let's start this video. Now, as always, we'll start this video off by looking at the weaknesses, resistances, elements that the boss can absorb, and of course their abilities as well. So this time around it is called the Affect, which a lot of people call the mermaids. So it does not have any weaknesses, nor does it have resistances, which is kind of nice for a chaos fight. However, it can absorb the dark element attacks. As for its ability, it does have the usual base dark attack, which becomes Dark Kra and becomes Dark Ga depending on the level. This is just a dark magic attack. Next is Rip, which is a melee HP attack. Banishing Gaze, which is a magic brave attack, which also inflicts a speed down debuff. Next is Break, which is a magic brave attack, which inflicts the stone debuff, or some people might call it Petrify. However, in the English version or the global version, it says stone debuff. I'm not sure as to why they didn't call it Petrify, don't ask me. Next is Poison Nails, which is a group melee brave attack, which inflicts the poison debuff. Next is Evil Scratch, which recovers itself from its break status and will do a melee brave plus HP attack. Now next up is Aqua Power, which basically it will remove all the debuffs from itself. This is excluding the frame debuffs. This increases their brave and will grant them elude to themselves. Now this also reduces the brave damage that they take until they get broken. However, this does have a low turn rate, so you will have some time to actually try to break them. Next is Water Spread, which is a group water magic brave attack, and they will give themselves an attack buff. Next is Demon Splash. This basically increases their brave and will do a water brave attack plus HP attack, and it will also remove the target's buffs. This is of course including the frame buffs as well, which is kinda dangerous. And this is probably the main reason that you will die as well. Next is the Reaper Rise, which basically all its stats will go up and will use Aqua Power the next turn. And again, there is the plus version of the Reaper Rise, basically just a greater all stats up, and again they will use Aqua Power on the next turn. Now finally, they are immune to Paralyze and Confuse debuffs. Okay, so now that we know the abilities, the resistances, the weaknesses, and the elements that the boss can absorb, let's take a look at some general tips and guide. Now we'll start off as always with saving up your abilities, about 70 to 80% of your abilities for the last boss. Now obviously, if you do have a splash damager like Squall, let Squall do all the work on the early mobs, and of course try and save a lot of your valuable abilities, especially Ultimecia for the last boss, because you are going to need all those gravity based attacks. Now let's go to the next one, which is to bring in the boosted characters. Now I haven't really been saying boosted characters in the last few videos because for the most part you do just want to bring your realized character. However, the boosted characters here are actually quite good. So we do have Ultimecia, Squall, Pain, and of course Deuce. And 3 out of 4 of these you can realize their weapons or EX plus. So if you have 3 of Ultimecia, Squall, and Deuce, then it's definitely gonna make this fight a lot easier. Now, however, if you do not have any of these characters, you can bring in characters like Cloud, Kryle, Ace, Warrior of Light, Garland, Titus, Vincent, Sarah, Noel, Ramza, and of course Fang as well. Now, the majority of the characters here are all realized characters, of course. Apart from Sarah, Noel, and Ramza, which they are still pretty good even without their realized weapon at this point. Now, the main reason why I added Noel here is because he actually has a gravity-based attack, which is his extra ability or additional ability, which is I believe it's called Shaver Slash. So it can actually, I do believe, remove half of the brave that the opponent has and will do a melee attack afterwards. So if you do have that, it's definitely going to be helpful in this fight. Now, as for the healers plus brave battery options, we do have quite a few this time around, and it's not only going to be Charlotta, and of course it's not only going to be Porum, which I actually made a mistake of writing Palom in the last video, but Porum, Charlotta is now joined with Rosa. If you have Rosa's complete kit, this will actually help you try and clear this fight or even complete it, especially with Rosa's ability to auto revive someone, and especially in this case where these mermaids actually will one-hit KO you with their demon splash. The revive is definitely gonna help you win against these mermaids. Now, as for the summon, you do have quite a few options with this one. Ifrit, Shiva, and Ramu are the best choice. Unfortunately, as much as I like to recommend Leviathan, he's just not up to par with the other 3. If you want more max brave, you have Ramu. If you have more attack, there's Ifrit. If you want a best of both worlds with well, not max brave, but increased speed and an increase in attack, you do have Shiva as well. Now it's time to take a look at some strategies for this fight that I implemented, and let's start off obviously with the friend support that you can bring. Now, there are a few options obviously with this one, since we are opening up a lot of different characters that have their EX plus weapon, but the highlights for the friend support right now is going to be Charlotta, Squall, and of course Ace as well. I wouldn't really recommend getting an Ultimecia friend because you can't really optimize or maximize Ultimecia's potency and her kit. You can't maximize it as a friend support because she needs time to build up. So it's actually she's not a very good friend support, to be completely honest with you. Now let's take a look at the second strategy that I implemented in this fight, which is to apply the frame debuffs like poison with sap-like effects, just like in the previous video. And this time around I added defense down effects as well because they do buff themselves, and obviously later down the track they will have a higher base defense, and if you're not really dealing a lot of damage, then you can't break them from their aqua power state. One thing that I will add in this one as well is to make sure to apply your debuffs before they actually buff themselves, because once they have elude, there is no chance of you to actually inflicting any of these debuffs. Even if there's a chance, it's very, very low. And especially if you are using like Warrior of Light and you're trying to provoke them and making sure that they use their break ability on Warrior of Light, make sure you actually apply that provoke early on in the fight, and obviously make sure that your own warrior of light has their elude buff up, which is when you use your throw buckler. Okay, now let's take a look at the next one. And this one is when you are actually going to use your summon. Now, preferably you actually use your summon after Reaper Rise Plus. Now, if you obviously can get to this point, then it's pretty much smooth sailing. So when you get to this point and before they use Reaper Rise Plus and then they're about to buff themselves, make sure you summon them and then you just burst them down as much as you can. Obviously you can still die, so you have to be very careful here. I've died a few times, well, more than a few times actually, just by getting freaking Demon Splash, because you don't know when it's going to happen. But from what I can gather, they use Demon Splash more if they actually have Brave and they're not broken. If the bosses are broken, they are more likely to use Break or any other attack, let's say Poison Claw or Evil Scratch or something like that. But if they have the Brave, even if their Brave is 0 thanks to your poison like debuffs, they will still use Demon Splash. As long as they're not broken, they are highly likely to use Demon Splash. And even if they're broken, there are times they actually use Demon Splash, which is kind of annoying, especially when you're at the last stretch of the fight. Now the next one I have for you guys here is you can actually kill the boss one by one or at the same time. There is no enrage mechanic, but obviously splash damage is definitely welcome, because if you can do splash damage, you'll probably kill the other boss much easier as well. The good thing here is knowing that there actually isn't any enrage mechanic if you kill one of them, which is kind of nice, and then you can just concentrate them on one of them. Now the final strategy or tip that I can actually give you guys, and this is very important, is to actually have someone who have gravity based abilities. And what I mean by this is they actually reduce the brave of the boss or the enemies at a certain percentage before dealing extra brave attacks. Just like I mentioned earlier, Noel can do this with his shaving slash, which is, deals half the amount of the brave shaving. Basically, it'll shave about half of it. Ultimecia, of course, if you have Ultimecia, it's definitely gonna help you here. And the other one is obviously Charlotta as well, with her EX, but relying too much on the EX is kind of hard. Sometimes you have to hold back and make them use it, and yeah, it's kind of tricky. But having both Charlotta and Ultimecia in your party will probably make this a lot bearable and probably make it a lot easier as well. Now, there is a special character that I want to mention, which is Bartz. Bartz actually has a gravity-based attack as well. However, he is still in the level 60 era, and he doesn't have his EX Plus or Realized Weapon just yet. So I don't know how viable he is on this one, and particularly, I don't know how much damage he will be able to use. He's a good brave battery, but there is a limit. His EX does go fast, recharge fast, so there's that, I guess, going for him, but I don't know how turn efficient he will be. That's why I didn't add him in the character list that I would highly recommend. And also, if you are planning bringing Noel, you only do have two uses of those additional abilities. However, they do not take a turn count, so it just makes it a lot, easier, I suppose, in terms of relying too much on an EX. But two times is definitely not gonna be enough for you to survive this fight. Obviously, you do have to pair him up with someone else. Okay, so now that we have gone through the general tips and of course the strategies or some of the tips that I can give you guys in order for you to actually complete this fight or even just clear it, let's take a look at some possible party compositions. Now, we'll start off with the boosted team. Now, there are obviously 4 characters here, which is Ultimecia, Squall, Pain, and of course Deuce. This is with a Squall support and with a Shiva summon. Now, I would highly recommend bringing Ultimecia Squall, and the third one depending on how well built your Deuce is. Obviously, if you have Deuce's full kit, she will be more effective than Pain. However, if she is not built up, then Pain is probably the better choice if you haven't realized your Deuce. Pain has that buff and a special debuff as well. So the special debuff, which is break status, basically will reduce their defense, which is really nice. I do believe it reduces their defense and some other things. I can't remember on top of my head, but it is a frame debuff, and you know, they will be weak against all of Pain's attacks. Also important to note that all of Pain's frame buffs is definitely going to help out the party. So in terms of that, I feel like Pain is the better choice because she is more of a damager. Deuce is more of a offensive support, so if you feel like you're not doing enough damage with your Squall and Ultimecia, which is will be kind of surprising at this point, especially if you have built up those two. It's a bit of a toss-up really, but I still favored Pain. Maybe it's a little bit biased because I like Pain as a character and I don't really have any affinity to Deuce, even though I liked her when she first came out. Yeah, I'll just go with Pain at this point. Now the next team I have here is the one that you guys are seeing here, which is Ultimecia, Squall, and Warrior of Light with a Squall support and Shiva summon. Now I have mentioned this before, but if you are planning to use Warrior of Light, make sure you use those throwing bucklers and provoke the boss before they actually buff themselves. This is very important because you want your Warrior of Light to take a lot of the damage, and especially to take the break ability. This is very important, and of course, like I said, the boss can actually use Demon Splash, which will definitely kill Warrior of Light regardless of your shield. It will go through that. But if you make sure that the bosses are broken just before they attack, then they will highly likely use like Break, which will miss because of Warrior of Light's elude buff as well. So you won't get petrified or get stoned. I don't know why it's stone. I just don't know, but from now on I'll just say petrified. So Warrior of Light is the only character, you know, in this party composition that can actually attract those break attacks and make sure he doesn't get petrified, so you don't lose the turns, and so you can reach your turn order. And of course, you know, make sure that your other characters can move and attack as well. This is very important in this party composition, or any composition that you are bringing if you have Warrior of Light. Okay, let's move on to the third party composition I have here, which is Ultimecia, Cryle, and Charlotta with a Charlotta support and a Shiva summon. Now, with this party composition, obviously the main goal here is to bomb the boss with Charlotta's abilities, especially with your friend Charlotta. So if you do kind of use this party composition when you are about to bomb the boss, the best character to remove, I feel like, would be Ultimecia or Cryle. Of course, between these two, especially depending if you have your Cryle maxed out and if you are getting a decent amount of Brave back from her EX attack, she would probably be a better choice to stay in, since you do have two Charlottas that can actually reduce the Brave of the boss. And for the most part, you want to use both Charlottas during the summon phase, and hopefully you get a lot of extra turns in order for you to actually just use all the Charlotte and make sure your own Ultimecia comes back just in time when the boss are about to buff themselves. Of course, the safer choice would be to take Kryl out and just put the French Charlotte in together with Ultimecia and Charlotte. However, if you are a bit brave and if you really want to do as much damage as you can, then having Kryl in the party, will actually, you know, especially with her as a brave battery, she is a better choice on this one. So regardless, you know, it's up to you whether you want to be a little bit adventurous and take Ultimecia out, or you just want to play safe and take Kryl out. Now the final team I have here is Ultimecia, Selphie, and Pain with the Charlotte support and Shiva summon. Now the idea here is kind of the same, however you do not have another Charlotte in this party composition. I would highly recommend keeping Selphie in and Ultimecia in on this one. You can take Pain out. The idea here is to use Selphie's aura ability to refresh Ultimecia's EX weapon as fast as it can. This way you will do a lot of damage, especially if you have Charlotte's EX ability up, the frame buff. If you have that up and then you use aura and then you keep using Ultimecia's EX over and over and over again, you just basically will bomb the boss with a lot of damage. This is a really high level strategy. Of course, you have to make sure everything just falls into place. It can be a little bit difficult to pull off, but the idea is for that Charlotte to actually use, you know, Light Crystal and then use the EX, and then, you know, I guess her Crystal Brave ability, and make sure your own even if your Selphie doesn't have aura already set up, but as long as that excuse me, your Ultimecia is ready, her EX is ready, then you should be able to pull this off. Okay guys, so we're finally at the end of this video, and of course I will give you guys my final thoughts. There's two ways to look at this fight. You have Ultimecia, pretty decent fight. You don't have Ultimecia, kind of a nightmarish fight. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to actually beat this without Ultimecia, because someone has done it in the Reddit, and I will leave the link description below on the call to arms for Macnol's call to arms, and I do believe someone in, you know, in there, someone commented they actually beat this without Ultimecia, and I do believe reading it, I think it was, he had Squall and Kryl max limit broken with their EX plus max limit broken as well. So, and I do believe it just barely made it. So that's why all my recommendation for the party composition involved having Ultimecia, because according to this person, I just actually found it, and it's Batisat. Batisat is the one who did this, and shout out to him, he actually did this without Ultimecia. According to him, without Ultimecia and Warrior of Light, you're basically at the mercy of Charlotte. You live and die by how Charlotte decides she wants to be in the turn order. So this is and I write out quote there, and I do believe it is quite amazing that he or she actually did this. But yeah, I would highly recommend you actually just go for Charlotte, Ultimecia, and actually just pull for her kit. And this fight will be a lot easier, and you won't be pulling out your hair in terms of trying to clear this fight. So anyway, like I said, the difference is night and day. If you have Ultimecia and you built her up really well, this fight will be quite decent. There is still a one-hit KO mechanic, which Again, as I said before, try to make sure that the bosses are in their broken state. They are highly likely to actually use a different ability from Demon Splash. So usually they will use Break or Poison Nails or whatever you want to call it. They will actually use those attacks instead of Demon Splash. So having them in their broken state will make sure, well, not 100%, but at least I found that they don't actually use Demon Splash if you break them, and they don't recover their break on their turn. That's the one other thing there. So that's it, my final thoughts. Basically, Ultimecia makes this fight decent, not altogether easy, because I still died quite a few times. But the one hit mechanic, one hit KO mechanic is kind of dumb. I hate those kinds of mechanic that just outright kills you, and like you don't really have anything to, you know, stop it, especially if they don't have Porum. So yeah, it is what it is, but I don't like those mechanics too much. So anyway guys, I think I'll leave the video right here. Please remember to click like and subscribe if you do have found this video informative at all. As always, I'd like to hear from you guys what you think of this fight down in the comments below, and let me know your party composition as well. And of course, if you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. There is a new goal, which is for me to reach 1,200 subscribers by the end of the year. So every single one of you guys who haven't subscribed and watching this video, you're definitely going to help me reach that goal if you do, because I see 70% of you guys that watch these videos aren't actually subscribed to my channel. Anyway, make sure to give that like button a hit as well, because it does help with the YouTube algorithm. And make sure to follow me on my social media. I am on Twitter and on Facebook at Monchkinz Gaming. This is Monchkinz logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.